we're good to go. And we are off to the start here for the draft. So Cloud9 Vortex and Torpedo, best of 3 in this first round of the ESL Go4Heroes America's monthly cup. That's, man, it's just such a handful to say. But Mr. Tetcher, thank you for joining me today. Let's get right on into it. And for the draft, we're actually going to start out on the right-hand side with Torpedo, and they're going to be banning out Brightwing as their first ban.
Yep, and the counter ban from Rarajar from Cloud9 is the Witch Doctor.
Nazebo. I can't quite do it as well as, you know, Kubi and Jake. They got a lot more practice on it, but the Brightwing ban is a little strange in terms of the NA side of things. We usually don't really see that big of an emphasis on the Brightwing, but now that people have really been picking up a lot of support steam in terms of who has rewind, it comes down to basically just the Brightwing.
Yeah, Brightwing is very popular over on the EU side of things, mostly by El Nexo, but as I'm sure most people are aware, El Nexo is the dominating team in Europe at the moment.
Vortex
just seems
and his brother, right?
Yeah, Vortex and Lucifron and Alistair, a lot of XSC2 pros.
Where StarCraft pros go to die.
Have a second lease of life, you mean?
Yes, that's totally what I mean. But you're right. I mean, Brightwing has been picking up a lot there. Now we seem to actually be favoring it more and more over here. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw Rhaegar, personally.
I saw Rhaegar yesterday in a different tournament, but like you said, Rhaegar is becoming very rare, considering Ancestral Healing is still a very, very good ability. Just not seeing him anymore is because Ufa and Brightwing are just favored so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Fight Dog myself, but I mean, I'm not on a team. These guys are. They clearly know what they're doing. Nazebo as a band, though, that's very, I don't want to say typical, standard. But it's very standard, yeah, especially on this side of things. I mean, we've seen some amazing plays come out of that Ravenous Spirit. If you can't shut it down, then you're going to have a bad time. So just banning him out straight out, it's great. First pick, however, is going to go into a Tychus, the king of the assassins.
Yeah, but the #1 assassin. And he's one of the heroes that we've seen a lot over all the tournaments and has seen almost zero change since his first introduction.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's had some tweaks, but overall, he's basically still the same. The biggest change was his Odin. The Odin actually now, with the hit point bar, it actually specifically says returns you up to your max hit points.
Yeah.
So, you know, a little bit of a buff there, but he's been the reigning king forever and ever. But, you know, a quick #2, most people would say between Vala and Falstead, and it's going to be a Vala Stitches to follow up here for Cloud9 Vortex. So, you know, a little bit of assassins on both sides of things, and there's something of like a duality in terms of the meta here on the NA side of things. It's either you go triple assassin, or you're going to have like a double assassin specialist, or you're going to have still the 2-2 with the 2 assassin 2 tank. Those are really the big kind of comps that we see more and more these days. No triple tanks like what we saw this weekend in the end on the EU side of things.
I actually missed that, so I did not see the triple tanks.
It was triple tank against triple assassin. Yeah.
Oh wow. I'm assuming triple tank won that. Oh. Okay.
Level 13 rewinds, baby.
Yeah, fair enough. In the EU currently the setup is tanks seem to be a bit more favored than assassins, unless you are El Nexo. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I am looking quite forward to it. And picking Stitches, though, what do you think about picking Stitches over Chen, seeing how favored he is at the moment as probably the best, if not tied the best warrior?
We are going into Cursed Hollow, so having that pick potential, especially when you know that people are going to be clustering around in the jungles, clustering around in these tight, narrow corridors, around the tributes, I think it's a fantastic pick. He's really tanky, and you can either go into, we've seen the cases of both Devour and the Putrid Bile. Both of them have actually come out very strong on this map because, again, those tight controlled spaces. So any kind of big AoE control that you can do, any kind of pick that you can get, like, you always have to be dancing around those Stitches hooks. You got to be really paying attention to some of your positioning, because yesterday we saw some fantastic things in the first January Cup in the ESL Go4 Americas, and that was a Hook Lanta basically coming out. Atlanta with the hooks.
I was watching that. That was amazing.
Just like, how does he do that? How does he do that? But he did it, and that's why we're seeing Stitches more and more here on the NA side of things.
It's true, and the reasons you gave for actually picking Stitches over Chen is the exact reason that we are seeing Nazebo banned, due to the fact that it is the Cursed Hollow. He does huge amounts of damage, and it's actually very hard to pick him off, considering he can stand behind a wall, and because the map does have so many close corridors, you're going to hit at least 3 people with that Ravenous Spirit.
Yep. No, it's, as I said, if you can't deal with that Ravenous, you're going to have yourself a bad time. But we do have the response here from Torpedo. They are going to go for a traditional double tank of Arthas and Chen, believe it or not. And this kind of goes back a little bit, if we go back weeks now before the Jaina patch, where we had these double body blocking maneuvers come up really, really big because, again, tight spaces, some narrow corridors. Arthas is a big guy. He's been hitting the gym. Chen has been hitting the drink. He got that belly. Their hitboxes are just immense. And of course, Chen has a second lease on life. Arthas has a lot of self-healing, and because of his ghouls, again, like, you can really clog up some of those escape routes, and you create yourself a sandwich scenario that just eats people alive.
Very much so. Just looking at this right now, the comp is so sustainy. I really am wondering how anyone's going to get picked off.
Hooks.
Hooks, but the thing is, Tychus has a dash. Arthas is pretty much immortal. And both Chen and Tychus have a second health bar, like you said.
The power of that Lich King, man. Like, he is ridiculously hard to kill. It's also going to come down to what kind of other supports, any kind of big squishies that we get into this. Now, on the side of Vortex, they have a really good opportunity here to snag Falstad, and then you got yourself a really good backline of the Falstad as well as the Vala. But they also have to go for, a support. And since Brightwing's already out, I'm going to be guessing an Uther, because you have a hook potential here, hook into stun, into another stun, into possibly devour. That's a lot of CC you can actually stack up just between Uther and Stitches. So that would be actually a really nice pickoff comp, I think, there. And of course, Uther, one of the most healiest heroes that you can get in this game, with the AoE, with the single target. Ghost form comes out, he still heals you. But that's kind of what I was expecting to see. I did not expect to see this.
Zeratul and Sergeant Hammer. On this map, like you said, I was not expecting it. I was very much expecting the Falstad, maybe more as a deny. But Zeratul and Sergeant Hammer is interesting. Sergeant Hammer with the range is actually incredibly good for the big team fights which happen around the tributes on this map. Zeratul is a bit pokier than I'd expect for this kind of comp.
Well, the Zeratul is going to come down to Void Prisons. That's because, again, small spaces, you can actually set up some really good positioning there with the Sergeant Hammer.
Golem steals.
Sergeant Hammer has actually been making a bit more of a resurgence since Resurgence got nerfed. That was a bad choice of words right there. Sergeant Hammer's been picked more and more in NA side of things, and it absolutely tickles me pink, because I have my second master skin was, of course, the Sergeant Hammer. I got a Hero's Fire guide up there as well, and she's absolutely my favoriteest hero to play. But having it up against the Chen, up against the Tychus, up against the immortal, CC machine that is Arthas, they have to really play around that hammer, because if she gets caught, absolutely, she is going to be in some trouble. And we don't really have, a lot of peel. We got Vala and Zeratul. It's not peel. So I'm curious to see how Vortex is going to play this out.
Vala can come up with not so much peel as slowing down enough for maybe Hammer and Vala combined killing someone with the help of Rain of Vengeance. But like you said, it's a very, very survivable team currently on the side of Torpedo. And it can also get very, very quickly up in your face. Like you mentioned, Chen can kick his way in and lock down some people. Arthas is just literally going to walk up to you and not care whatever you do. And Tychus, that overdrive is seriously going to be a danger to Hammer unless can get the knockback.
Yeah, I mean, also earlier in the game, you set up Hammer for maybe a little bit of siege mode into the bottom lane, because it's very likely that the Hammer's going to be into the bottom lane. I call that the party lane. It's usually a 1-1-3 split, or then we'll see some roaming. But, the grenade can absolutely play havoc with her. And she's not really going to come into a lot of big power here for the Hammer side of things until 13, when we get bullhead mines, which is the typical way that we do see it built here in high meta NA. You go for the mines, and then the mines. Past that, it's Maelstrom shells, artillery, and first aid with Napalm Strike. So we'll have to see if that actually will come into play here. We still got 2 picks here for Torpedo. They're really taking their time thinking about this one. But they need a support, and if I have to guess, they need another kind of damagey character. Nazebo's out, the Sergeant Hammer's already down, Vala's already picked. Okay, again, they're just throwing me another lube. This is something I haven't personally seen in a while, but the resurgence of the worm.
Not good enough. Can
Yep, Abathur is being picked up. You were correct with Uther. Abathur's quite nice here due to the fact that they already have quite a tanky front line. And on this map, we've mentioned it before, very large. You're going to be able to push lanes quite nice with Abathur there. It's quite a decent D push for Sergeant Hammer once you get your level 16 Locusts. And copying the Tychus with the double Odin is still as viable as it was back when it was pretty much commonplace in EU.
So this begs the question, is it going to be double Arthas or double Tychus when it comes to
It depends on the
clone?
situation, because Arthas and Chen are going to be able to survive pretty much everything, especially with Uther. So it's the question of whether they want the more sustain or whether they want more damage.
Now, I said maybe we're not going to be seeing triple tanks, but if it is going to be double Arthas, the double Arthas combo with all the slows that he puts out, all the CC, it's actually very terrifying. It's something that we see, more often than not whenever there is an Abathur on the table here on the NA side of things. So I'm curious if I have to eat my words there. If I had to take a guess, though, it will be the double Odins in the back, because it's just way too much damage to give up.
I would agree. And it's going to be Malfurion as the last pick from Rajar.
It was either that or Rhaegar. I mean,
yep, and
hands were tied.
Like we said, Rhaegar's just not seeing any play, whereas Malfurion actually seeing a little bit of play. This is never the case on EU. We almost never see Malfurion over on EU, whereas in NA, he seems to just be a lot more popular than Rhaegar. And the weird thing is, Rhaegar's not taken any nerfs. It's just how things have changed recently.
Right. You're right. Yeah. So, Malfurion coming into this. Not exactly, again, another big Peely kind of character here for the Sergeant Hammers. So if Torpedo has any kind of access into shutting down the Hammer, I think that she's just going to absolutely drop. Root kicks coming in, Howling Blasts, grenades, you name it. I mean, even after that, level 20 comes around, and I think Uther's Divine Hurricane can almost match the siege mode. So it's going to be really hard for her to survive later and later into the game. It's all about the team to protect her. Same time, it is the single tank. The single tank up against the double, possibly triple with Arthas. So it's a much beefier lineup here for Torpedo.
Yeah, but a single tank with double resurgence on the side of Cloud9 in the form of Stitches and that Sergeant Hammer. And I will let the players know that, yes, we are ready.
Yeah.
Nope, they've ignored me anyway. But like I said, the side of Torpedo is a lot tankier and a lot sustainier. So it is just damage versus tankiness. Who will win?
Who will win? That's going to be the big question here as we're going to jump into it, guys. So game number 1 of our first best of 3 here, round of 16, Go4Heroes Americas. FourCourtJester and Tetcher bringing you the plays. And of course, we also have to give a big shout out there to Mr. Ali, who has now created us a fantastic overlay for use for a lot of these talents. So, we can now actually look at a lot of these talents without actually blocking out the entire screen. So, yeah, big kudos to him. Really fantastic work.
It is very cool. One of the coolest things I have seen created for this game. I hope to see a lot more from him. He gave me a couple little clues as to what he was working on. I am very excited. But FourCourt, would you like to introduce us to the blue team?
All right, guys, you've seen them. You saw a few of them actually at BlizzCon, and you've seen them all out and about on the hot dogs and the solo queue here on the left-hand side. From the blue, it is going to be Cloud9 Vortex, Fan, Liquid Chef actually playing out for them today. I Dream on not a Sergeant Hammer Master Skin. What is this? Rajar playing the Zerto, and Bobby Hank Hill looking to go into the bottom lane there with the Stitch. On the flip side, though, perhaps not a team you guys have heard. It is going to be Torpedo, a.k.a. Nick Hotz's team. He's not actually here. But this is pretty hype. Chew8 into the top lane with that Abathur. Chew8 has been a long-time MOBA player over various titles. This is, I think, my 3rd or 4th game I've got to cast with him title-wise over the years. So that's pretty fun for me. Tsunami, Erho, not Echo. Kionda is playing out for their support. And that leaves us with Eragi in the bot.
Yeah, but Araragi is a player we have seen in the EU, or at least someone with the exact same name. But one thing, once again, I'd like to point out a comparison with EU and NA. We almost never see this kind of creep blocking that we do in NA in the EU side. We saw it in the top lane, the 3-man blocking of the minions to make sure they're close to their base. So Hammer's going to have a safer time clearing this, and they can do so much more siege damage in the early game.
Oh, I dream.
If she was in range.
Yeah, a little bit miscalculation there. So they are going to start piling up that damage into the top. You saw Chew8 was actually top, who's now relocated to the bottom. This is not the party lane I expected. I mean, I did expect to see the Sergeant Hammer with the support and possibly, I was going to say, with the stitches, but but it's actually pushing down top as hard as they can, and Tsunami does not really have a recourse to this. I mean, by himself as that Panda this early on, he's not nearly going to be the sustained freak that we will see later on. But with Arthas coming up here, there's still no range on the back of that, which means that they're not really going to be able to touch this comp.
Yeah, and I think the reason they've gone for this particular setup in the top lane is because the enemy team did pick up that Abathur. This means that they're less likely to get really heavily ganked in the early game and take out Sergeant Hammer, which means if you throw your assassin in there, where someone like Valor with multi-shot, for example, you can take down minions so much quicker, and as we can see, being very effective. They've already pushed down both towers and the gate, because, like you said, there's no recourse.
Yep, 2 minutes in, they get themselves a gate, and this is a little bit of a weakness of the comp that they're exploiting here from Torpedo, as Tsunami finds out that there's a whole bunch of people coming for his face. We do got Chew8 there with the Abathur shield, so he's going to be fine. But this is a big weakness of the comp from Torpedo because they only have Tychus for range. Abathur really doesn't count because he needs to host somebody, and there's nobody really staying alive in range of this comp. So, hey, they got down the top gate, now they're going for mid.
If in the meantime, we are going to be seeing Torpedo go for their Bruiser camp. It is a lot quicker than we're seeing Cloud9 get it. Abathur has head there as well to help his Locust Ball spawn and tank a bit of that as well. And he's been shielding Arrow this entire time. First Tribute does spawn in the top lane. Araragi is there, but he's a bit low on health. He's going to have to grab that fountain. And Raja is already there to try and contest him.
Well, that's going to be the third tower now in the mid there as well. iDream just really laying on that siege damage pretty thick. That's a nice pickup there on their bruisers, but unfortunately, if they don't actually go and contest this tribute, that's the bruisers are going to be actually of diminished use. Bottom lanes from both sides did not actually go up to the tribute here as well. Marjo's going to pick it up. We had one grenade from Araragi, and that was it. So you can tell we're struggling a little bit here on the Torpedo side.
If Torpedo trying desperately to get some kind of foothold, but currently all of their lanes except mid are pushed, and the only reason mid is not pushed is because of that Bruiser camp they took earlier, which is dying very quickly because Valor and Sergeant Hammer sort of just clears everything in seconds, and now they're once again moving in. The mule's been dropped, but that's not going to help. This tower will go down as well.
The siege damage will eventually kill the mule. The splash damage will eventually kill that mule, and there it goes. I think Liquid Chef also had an eye on it as well, able to moonfire it down. There goes Midgate, and again, like, we're not really seeing any kind of big resistance coming up from Torpedo because this early game just does not really have an answer to the ranged comp of this rotation. Now, speaking of the rotation, Bobby Hank Hill could be heading up to that mid to soak as we're now looking at this bottom gate scenario.
I'm loving this strategy. Like we said earlier, because Abathur's here, they're less likely to get really dangerously ganked, so they're just running from one lane to another and just taking out everything, getting such a huge XP lead.
And that experience lead is starting to actually show. It's almost, well, it's about half a level right now.
Almost half a level with 0 kills. This is just from killing towers.
Oh, Rajar's about to fix that. Yeah, there goes the Tychus. Was not able to actually deal with the Zeratul face check in that scenario. So that is actually really going to now change the scales of things in the top lane as Arrow gets hooked in this bottom. You got Chew8 on top of him, but the hit points of Bobby Hank Hill are really not going down. But we have said this time and again, Arthas basically immortal at this point, so he walks away.
Yep, and he's not even got his ult yet. He's still going to be able to survive pretty much anything that goes his way. Citrus, though, going to attempt to do a bit of damage, but Shen is there as well. It's unlikely that we will see Arrow go down. In the meantime, in the bot lane, everything dies.
Yeah, meanwhile, bot lane, yeah. 3 gates down at the 5.5 minute mark. They didn't camp out for the forts, although now that we are level 10, you can see we got Putrid Bile, Void Prison, Strafe, Tranquility, and Nate Bomb Strike. So the Tranquility is going to be a bit more of a Healy kind of Malfurion to try to keep it alive. And that's actually a really good idea, I want to say, because you're going to need that extra healing against this bigger, beefier comp, especially with double Odins to back it up. But we're now 11, Mr. Tetcher. There we go. We finally got the ults here for Torpedo, but, you know, what can they do at this point?
there's not really much they can do. And I'm just going to increase a bit on the mentioning of Tranquility that you did earlier. I am a huge fan of this because, like you said, it's to heal their comp, because the double Odin is going to be a problem, but it's a sustained damage comp and it's a staying alive comp. They literally outlive their opponents with Arthas, Tychus, Chen, and all that. With Malfurion, they're going to attempt to out-sustain. They're not going to. They're not going to be able to kill anyone on the side of C9 here.
Well, you know, they really tried very hard to get that zero tool kill right there, but Void Prison coming out at the right time. Rajar is actually going to get out of that one unscathed. Here comes the collapse into the bottom, into the mid though. Tsunami jumps in with that root kick. They're going to go for iDream, and that's really what you want to be doing at this point, because again, you got to get down that tank. You saw the Panda ult come out. You see Uther in the back there as well with that storm. We have now killed out the tank, but they paid for it with that Uther fan low in the back. We do got one Odin on the field, but Rajar's now there to clean that up. Valo will drop, however, and I think it's going to be a 2-2. We do got Airho still alive. Tsunami's out of the Panda Pals, but Shep, I don't think is going to be able to take that down, not with the hat. And we didn't see a clone, now that I think about it, from the Abathur, so they end up 2 for 2.
We did not, in fact, see the clone. Rajar does get rooted there. Going to be denying him taking that tribute. Chen is also here, but like we saw exactly what the issue is going to be for Torpedo there. They tried to jump onto the damaged character in the form of Sergeant Hammer, and a combination of Tranquility and First Aid just kept him alive. They had to pop the Panda Pals just to lock him down enough so that they could eventually out-sustain him and kill him. And in the meantime, they lost 2 members of their own.
Yeah, I mean, Tranquility, the regrowth, and First Aid. I mean, that's a lot of health return coming out. Oh, the hooks coming on to Tsunami, though. We don't have no Panda Pals quite yet. We do got Kionda with that storm, but it goes down way too late. Uther down, and now, of course, that's going to be an Arthas down here as well. 3 quick kills with Cloud9 Vortex and a curse in their pocket as Chef is about to bring that one home. Not good for Torpedoes.
Not good at all. Getting a curse when you are against a Sergeant Hammer. Kill count currently 6-2. Cloud9 running away with this game when we're coming up to the 10-minute mark. They're going to take down their 3rd fort of the game. Abathur is in this bot lane, just trying to de-push this a bit and give his team back a bit of an advantage. Cloud9, though, just capitalizing on this, and they are pushing towards this keep. We'll probably only get the towers and the gate, but they're going to try and play defensively. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Rajar is running for his life and is playing the Duke game. Oh, he's been revealed. He's been rooted.
He's also used the Void Prison already, yeah. He tried to snipe out the Tychus, and he used the Void Prison to let those cooldowns come back so that he can. Look at that! Like, look how close he got him. Look how close he got him. Yeah, it was very close. But wow, all that was happening on. Of course, there was a curse going, and that means that the top gate has now been pushed down. The Sergeant Hammer's done some amazing damage numbers there with the help of her team. 3 forts are dead at the 9-minute mark, 15-13, and this top gate is gone as well. Definitely an early game advantage for Cloud9.
Very, very much the case. In Cloud9, just moving back, getting to their own buildings, making sure that they are completely safe for when Torpedo move out. And Torpedo currently going to be taking their bruiser camps, and Arrow already gets hooked. He does have the hat on him, but Van is behind this wall. Dream is also in this terrain, just trying to steal Scavenge from afar. There's the strafe, but knocked out of it by the Tychus grenade, and it's actually looking quite good for Torpedo. Bobby is being regrowth, but he does go down. Panda Pals has been popped, trying to go onto Chef, but he is healing himself and Fan so much they're not going to be able to catch up here. In comes Rajar from the back. See if they can pick someone off. There is the Tychus clone was popped. Wasn't able really to do much, and Shed is now out of his ult, and they're going on it.
All right, so, okay, the UI actually doesn't show us the Ultimate Evolution cooldown, so we do got the double Odins here, but it's not enough to keep Arthas up. That Void Prison is going to be the death of Kionda. Chew 8 there in the back again. Double Odins sound great on paper, but so far they are not delivering some fantastic uses of Void Prisons in the splitting here of the team. So yeah, we killed out the Stitches, but they paid out for 2 of them. They're trying to keep Araragi alive, but not entirely too sure that's going to work. It's so close.
He's so low.
Damn, one
there we go.
It was the napalm, and now Tsunami's actually going to be in trouble as well because he tried to save out. 4 for 1 Tetcher in the long run.
Yeah, well, 4 and a bit if you include the Abathur clone. It was basically an ace, but Abathur does get to stay alive here and try and clear these waves. They are actually pushing in the mid and the bot lane, but that's not going to help them much when there is a golem barreling down their top lane.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to do anything when you got the big boss coming for you. That's for sure. Looking at it though, level 16 advantage now here for the Cloud9 Vortex, and fishing hook. We see so many different Stitches builds game to game that fishing hook actually tickles me a little pink here.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of fishing hook. What is the name of the one that stuns? I cannot actually remember.
Well, it's going to be the slam one that's done.
It is the slam one, but I cannot remember the name of the actual talent, but that seems to be the more common one. But fishing hook is by far my favorite, and it is by far the most annoying if you are the enemy team, because you will suddenly find yourself flying across the map gracefully into the loving arms of the Stitches.
Well, as you said, you know, when you have a boss barreling down, there's not really much to do except kill it, and so Torpedo's going to be busy with one, but now they're going to have to deal with another as their bottom lane is about to get totally wrecked. In terms of, like, any kind of talents that are popping out at you here, sir?
Well, one of them is actually popping out here, and that is the Abathur build in general. Starting off not with the buffs on the Locust, for example, but starting off with Eradicate minions and Pressurized Glands, buffing the Spike Burst build.
So the Spike Burst tells me that he wants to just, you know, clear waves. That's what he wants to use it for, you know. If you can clear the waves, you get the experience, you can keep those lanes pushed, you get that default pressure, but that hasn't really worked out for Abathur so far, has it?
Not really. Abathur has been, to be fair, Abathur has pushed the lanes quite well, but when your team is dead, there's not much you can do. You can push the lane all you want. Tsunami does get hooked there, but with the hack and the fact he is both Chen, he's going to be able to survive this, back up, and get ready for the re-engage, which his team is going to have to do. They need to do something about this keep going down, or at least get something out of it. And there we go. Keep does go down. They're going to try and use this for an engagement. Bobby is out of position. They're engaging onto Rajar here. Nice Void Prism onto Kyonda and Arrow here. There is the tranquility for Cloud9 here. Ufa comes in and hits both Zeratul and Stitches. Stitches gets knocked down. He will finally go down. And Torpedo do have the advantage in this fight. Tsunami gets kicked out of his ult by the damage. But pretty much everyone here on Cloud9 is still full health despite losing a member. They are just going to turn this around and engage back onto this Arrow. Somehow with aim so close. And however, Rajar is going to go in and kill off the Abathur clone. Abathur needs to back up there. He was a bit far forward. And Cloud9 able to take down 2 members for 1 and get out with so much health.
2 for 1, man. That's a great pizza special, but in Heroes, it's even a little better. Yeah, they lost out the Stitches, yip-de-doo, but they got 2 kills. And you notice a lot of these fights, I mean, it's really just Cloud9 shooting, backing up, shooting, backing up. They're kiting. They're literally just kiting this mostly melee team, and the slow Odin can't really keep up with it. Like, he's always in the back, but he's not really delivering the damage.
Yeah, they are literally just running out the duration. The only person who can really keep up at this point is Chen, and on his own, he cannot take care of this. He's been popped out of his ultimate early pretty much every time so far.
Chen and the sprinting Uther, because you see that there at level 13. Uther also now going Imposing Presence. Not really a talent we see a lot of, but because we have such huge range damage available here to Cloud9 Vortex, anytime people attack them, they get 50%. Yeah, they buffed it. That's right. 50% attack speed reduction, which is, you know, big for Vala, who has a really fast default auto attack. Big for the big cannon shots there of iDream. Speaking of iDreaming crew, they're getting jumped here in the mid, but that Void Prism pretty on point. It's going to keep 2 of these guys there at bay. Liquid Chef, however, does have that tranquility going. He's still alive. Uther, however, is not. Tsunami finally jumps in there with the combination kick, finishes him off, but Araragi in the back, not really, again, doing the damage that he needs to. Fan kiting out. Rajar with the blinks. iDream's still alive now. Bobby Hank kill here. They're going to clean up this gank, and they're going to pay really, really hard there, Torpedo, for a 4 for 1, and they're the ones that engaged.
Yeah, they engaged. It was actually a fairly decent angle to engage from, but that Void Prism just changed everything. And during that fight, iDream was just left completely alone to basically do whatever he wanted. And what he did was kill everything. It's so much damage in the back there. If we can actually have a look at the damage tab here and see the Sergeant Hammer has done 43,000 damage, with Vala doing 51,000. Yeah. Now, Cloud9 just going to press their advantage onto the core.
It's Abathur, actually. It's Abathur with the top hero damage on his team at 38,000. Like, the damage just isn't there. I mean, it sucks to say. It's just not there. And a really nice win here for Cloud9 Vortex. They take game number 1 of this game series. So, you know, again, I think they just really came out strong with the exploitation of the lack of range there against their opponents.
I would agree. Did a fantastic job. Did huge damage with the basically triple assassin combo. And like you said, the kiting from the side of Cloud9 was just spectacular. We had a great engage comp from TORPEDO that they just were never able to land properly.
True enough. Yeah. So you can see there, you know, it did well. I mean, the double ranged, they had the early game advantage there with the Malfurion. They took down all the gates. They took down 3 forts during their curse. I don't even think we put a tribute into the pocket of TORPEDO, and their mostly tanky line just was not able to keep up whatsoever.
Yep, and this is just indicative of the new meta shift we have been seeing. It's been going on for a while now, but damage is just being favored over tankiness. Like you mentioned it yourself, it used to be the other way around, but nowadays it's all about that damage, which is why we are seeing Sergeant Hammer, with a bit of help from Resurgence, coming in a bit more.
Well, so, you know, early game, if you have the bigger, beefier comp, you usually going to win. Because you can, you know, roam around, you can gank, you can use a lot of the crowd control abilities to your advantage and just try to get those kills. But as soon as, you know, you hit 10, you hit 13, and those damage options come out, if you haven't made yourself enough of a lead, you are going to pay for it really hard late game. But that wasn't even the case this time. Cloud9 just rolled in, literally set up shop and took down every single building in the game.
This is true. And I loved the strategy in the early game for them. They took into account what TORPEDO's team comp was, that it was basically very tanky. Like I said, it is good in the early game, but only if you all group up and just survive through the fight and just kill everyone and use that to their advantage. They knew Abathur wasn't going to be helping much in the ganks, so they immediately just took Sergeant Hammer and took Valor with her to clear the minion waves and just wreck all of the buildings really early on in the game.
Well, it worked out well for them. We'll have to see what game number 2 will bring, because we're going to be taking a quick break and jumping into that.